Hi, and welcome to the Route to CISO podcast. It's me, Kris Rides. I'm going to be your host, and I'm going to be chatting to seasoned Chief Information Security Officers about their career journeys. We're going to be unencrypting their real-life stories and searching for the hidden keys to help you fast-track your cybersecurity career. Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Gary Hayslip on the Route to CISO podcast. Let's dive right in. Could you explain a bit about what SoftBank do? Actually, that's probably a useful place to lead from, I guess.
What do they not do? SoftBank is SoftBank's like an umbrella. I kind of look at it as an umbrella with a whole bunch of people standing underneath it. There's you got SoftBank. The headquarters is in Tokyo, but underneath that, there's a lot of different companies that have been spun up over the years. And it's really interesting. I mean, there's SoftBank Telecom, which is the primary company in Japan. If you're going to go buy a cell phone, you're probably going to go into a SoftBank store to buy a cell phone. If you're at home and you're going to buy internet access, for your house or even for your business, you're probably going to get it through SoftBank, and you'll get it through SoftBank Telecom. If you are in a business and you want to buy software and you're looking for some VAR or somebody to buy it from, you've got SoftBank CS. They've got 13,000 plus, sales reps that, sell about anything and everything that you can think of, software, and services related wise, so you deal with SoftBank CS. If you're dealing with, energy, we've got, SoftBank Energy. If you're dealing with robotics, we got SoftBank Robotics, and then, for us, the investment side, which is where I'm at, I'm the CISO for the Vision Fund 2, and the LATAM Fund. And then there's some other projects and stuff as well, within that, the whole investment side of SoftBank, what we call SoftBank Investment Advisers. It's SoftBank Investment Advisers and SoftBank Group International, but they're all part of the investment portfolio. And I do cyber and physical security across the whole thing, and we've got offices in about 16 different countries, and so I'm managing the physical security stuff for that as well, and then we've got about 500 plus portfolio companies. And so for the investment side where I'm at, what we do is we've got multiple portfolios that we manage, for our LPs. And then we look for other companies to invest in as well, and right now they're very focused on AI, and they're very focused on, emerging technologies. And so we're either investing in them, or we've all actually purchased companies, like Guardicore and ARM and stuff like that, companies that we've purchased. And as the CISO for the investment side, I also look at the fact that I'm a resource for those companies, and also for the companies that are in our portfolio. Many of them are mature, and they don't need me chapping and chatting with them and stuff. But every once in a while, I'd say about 3 or 4 times a month, I get, CISOs from one of my companies will reach out to chat, whether it's, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so, hey, we're looking at, this EDR technology, and I remember you saying that you use it. What do you think about this? And we, and sometimes we just get our teams together and let our teams veg and chat with each other.
Yeah.
And so I spend a lot of time, as a reference for them as well, and then our investment teams, if one of our investment teams is looking at a cyber company or some type of an emerging technology company, there's a lot of times I'll get pulled in. I'll get pulled in just because I know the company, or I know the technology, or I actually know the founders or the people at the company, and and I'll get pulled in. And again, I'm as a resource, and it's but it's fascinating. It's really just interesting to be part of that whole process and to see what goes into doing due diligence on a company and seeing where they're at and where they're growing, and and whether we're going to invest or not. And it's pretty cool.
What an amazing opportunity to be in, like, such a varied, like a role that's so varied. That's you're dealing with all sorts of companies.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every year. I think the 5.5 years I've been here, every year something changes. And like over this last year, Gen AI is we're big in the AI and then the Gen AI, and so we use it extensively internally. So you're writing policy on it, you're training staff on it. My team's building GPTs, and we're actually doing query engineering and building stuff and breaking things, and then at the same time, our vendors are beta testing and doing stuff. Hey, we've built this chatbot. Can you test this for us? And what do you think about this? And so my team and I are playing with stuff and making recommendations. And hey, we'd like to see these changes, or I'd like to see this in the report. Or why can't I have a dashboard that shows me this? Oh, that's
Yeah.
on our roadmap. Yeah, blah blah blah. And and it's like, but yeah, it's, so I mean, it seems like every year there's something different. Over this last year, Gen AI has been driving a lot of it for us, not just using it internally, but also from a security aspect of it, of how to monitor it, how to manage it, how to make sure that your employees are staying within the guardrails that you've built for it, because to me, cyber is still cyber. You still got the risks that you still have to manage. You still got to manage, access and identity and data protection and all these things. And just because it's been wrapped with AI and all of a sudden it's new and pretty and it's not true. No, it's still data protection. It's still, dealing with access. It's still, I've still got cyber controls that I've got to manage, things may shift differently, and it may be in somebody else's data center, no longer yours now, because now it's a SaaS app, which brings a whole other level of controls that you got to do.
It's I feel like a lot of the VCs and sort of the private equity companies, people that we've worked with, like it's all about the added value of what they can provide. I don't know. I feel like I used to love watching Shark Tank. And even those, back in those days when people were pitching and when they were all interested, it wasn't about just who was going to pony up the right amount of money for the right percentage. It was what value they were going to bring. And I see that
Yeah,
in the VCs and the PEs and all the companies that are looking to make investments. What else are you bringing to the table?
yeah,
Because there's plenty of people that can bring the money. What else can you help us with?
yeah. I mean, a couple of the companies that I advise, as an advisor, and then and the companies that I want to on the board for, yeah, it is that. I mean, I'll sit down with their sales team and just tell them, okay, if you're talking to a CISO, you're going to be laughed out of the room. Try this, or they're like, hey, this looks really good. I like what you've got here. And then they'll may throw some questions out like, well, we're thinking about asking this. What do you think? And so I mean, I've done stuff like that. I mean, I've sat down, I've done strategy where I've just like, hey, this is where we're currently at. This is what we've got built. These are, services and stuff that we think we'd like to add to the platform, and we're discussing, should we build it or should we buy it? And then it's like, woohoo, because I love doing strategy. Because then it's like, okay, yeah, if we acquire, here's the issues that we're looking at. Here's candidates that we know of right now that would probably fall within that space. What would it be like to be able to buy one of those, be able to flip it, be able to merge and integrate the teams? How fast could we get that product spun up to be able to get it out to where we're actually making revenue? So we start doing stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, and for any of the startups and stuff that are listening to stuff, like that's things that you should be asking. It just isn't about the money. What else can they bring? Are they going to be able to bring stuff to help mature your executive team? Because the executive team that you start with may not be the team that you end with when you go IPO or when you sell the company or whatever. I can guarantee you it's not. And you've seen this as well. Companies may start with a CISO, with this experience at this level,
Mm-hmm.
but when they're going IPO, they want a different CISO, because
Yep.
it's a different level of maturity. It's a different focus when you're getting audited with people with a lot of money and they're expecting you to be NIST CSF or to be ISO or to be whatever, and they want to know, where it's documented and you're by the numbers, boom, 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 before they start ponying out a ton of money before they allow you to go public. But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I just as CISOs, when they're talking with a company to buy a product, and we're not looking at, hey, I'm going to buy the product to fix one issue. I want to look at your product to see 4 or 5 issues that you can help me with. You should be thinking, when you're talking to an investor, when you're talking to an LP, and hey, not just the money piece, but what else can you help me with? What other areas can you help me with? Can you make recommendations? We need to hire a CFO. Hey, can you make recommendations? We want to move into the EU. We want to spin up a sales team there. Do you know some people over there for us? It's stuff like that. You need to be thinking about that. Why not? They're already expecting you to not only go ahead and be able to do that product, but also be able to come up with other products and to be able to scale and to get real sticky, to land, be able to build out. You should be thinking the same.
Yeah, that's how a lot of our relationships have ended up sort of getting involved. We've met people at conferences and through companies that we've got relationships with, and they're investors. And now I see a lot more of the bigger VCs have got, they've got their own talent acquisition teams where they try and help, but a lot of the time they're making introductions. So we've been introduced to a few different startups that are hiring their first CISO, or that actually only need a virtual fractional CISO at the stage that they're at, and we've helped with that sort of stuff. So yeah, we've had some interesting projects that have come off the back of the private equity and VCs, and actually some of the family trusts and family offices as well that are doing similar things. Well, it's so easy to talk to you. You're very passionate about everything you speak about, which makes my job really easy. I wanna know, and your name came up actually when I'm trying to think who I was asking that came up with your name when I asked them about CISOs that they recommended. But your name has come up already, I think, in season 1, and I would love to hear that. Like, who are the CISOs that you look up to? Who are the people that you think are doing a great job? And I'm sure you'll offend, hopefully you won't offend the people you miss out, because we can't talk about everybody. But who are the ones that sort of come to mind that maybe you connect with, and they're the people that you'll pick up the phone maybe to when you want to sort of talk things through.
See now my mind's going to go. See, now that you've asked this, I can't remember. Anyway, I was on the. In fact, I was just on a call, or a chat with a really close friend of mine, Kirsten Davies. CISO. She's amazing. Her and I have known each other for years, and then Brett Whalen, who's also a close friend, Alan Alford, who had spun up and started his own business, and now he's stepped back into the ring, taking a CISO role for NTT for their data centers, and he's already off to the races and busy. And then there's people. I'm just thinking, because I was just hanging out with a whole group of them when I was at Black Hat Mia. There's like, I can't remember anybody. And the crazy thing is, I know hundreds, but there's Anne Marie Zodemeyer, who's a really good friend of mine, and then there's like Nick, Nate Case, who's a CISO right now. Him and I are writing together. And then there's like Nick Virgil, who's him and I were just chatting last week. And there's tons of them. I could give you a list of people that I deal with all the time.
What are the things because I went out a while ago, and I think you actually were one of the people that responded to this as well. And I went out to like over 500 CISOs, and I was asking them about the top attributes, like top 3 attributes that they thought that CISOs needed to be successful. When you think about those people, some of those people you mentioned, and it's funny because one of the things that you brought up when you were talking about doing your MBA was business, and business is probably the top, if not maybe the top, one of the top 2 frequent answers I get back about the requirement to be a good CISO, to have that business understanding. But outside of that, what are the, or as well as that, what are the other attributes that you see in those people that you think people need to be successful?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things one of the things I talk about a lot is you got to be very, very good at communications, just because of the fact that you may, because you're going to be dealing with different audiences where you may be very technical and talking engineering and stuff with one group, and then you may be dealing with another group that's not technical at all, but you have to take that data and be able to crosswalk it and be able to put it in a format to where it makes sense to them and they care.
Yeah.
You can help them give a shit about what you're talking about. And so that communication piece, not just verbal but written as well. It's and a it becomes a core skill for you, especially the more senior you get, the more you deal with executive teams and stuff. Um, Another thing I look at too is the managing expectations piece as well. The more senior you get as well, there's so much of your job in IT, in not just in IT but in cyber, that the business doesn't see. They just assume it's there. They just assume it works. They just assume cybersecurity is magical, and it's just going to be there. They don't know all the work and stuff that's going on behind the scenes and everything like that. You've got to go ahead and manage the expectations with them, that hey, there's this level of resources, this amount of hours, people, all these different budget and everything that are going to be required, and you can have it within this time frame and be able to deliver it with these deliverables. That whole piece, you got to be able to communicate it, you got to be able to manage it, not just manage it to them but also manage the teams and the people that are doing it as well. That is huge. And then there's other things. There's soft skill stuff too. That, I mean, the article I just published on LinkedIn this last weekend, dealing with the practicing, being grateful, and and the mindfulness piece for your own sanity,
Hmm.
about being able to manage the stress, being able to manage the very fast pace and the stuff that you're doing. Doing that, you'll be healthy, and along with that, making sure that your staff are doing some semblance of that as well, because you want them to go ahead and be well, and you don't want to lose them. And then the gratefulness piece as well is, a lot of it is just the fact that you know you're willing to let other people you know own the accolades. I don't care about that. I'm here to serve. We've got things that we're building and we're doing. I'm here to protect the organization. I have no problem letting my team take the applause and stuff like that, because then them doing well, I look well, and I go on about my business. I don't. I've got enough trophies and shit. I don't need any more. I need more Star Wars Legos. I don't need trophies.
There you go. I
So,
was going to say that's definitely. Well, I mean, I don't know. You haven't got much space up there for more Star Wars Legos, but
well,
we can always find space, right?
you get things like, I hang them from the ceiling. I got a whole fleet hanging. Yeah, and then I got a whole other fleet over here hanging from the ceiling. So it just kind of depends. You know, but it's but I said, there's a lot of skills around the teamwork aspect of being able to work within teams, the dependability aspect of, when you work that close with each other, you have to be able to depend upon the fact that you're going to do your deliverables, you're going to do the things that are required, you're going to be thinking ahead and helping teammates with their issues. The communications piece of being able to being able to talk to each other in both verbal and in writing.
Hmm.
um, all of these things are critical. And what I like about the many of the CISOs that I work with, that I know, they do that very well. They're very good at being able to communicate and making sure the executive team and the board and everything understand what's required, where we're at with risk. Hey, you've given me such and such for budget, and this is where we're at. We're risk baseline here. We've got these current projects which are completed. These right now are at 60-70% completion, and they're on track for this end date. However, we've got some new issues that have come up, and we're going to need to refocus on these within the next 3 months. Stuff like that. I mean, it's they do those things very well. And then I think and then one of the last things I think is critical, especially the more senior you get, is the leaning forward, the strategic view of not just doing what you're doing, but looking at the business. and where the business is going, and how you sit and how you serve within the business and help the business, you know, and um, and then also you're thinking, where am I going to be at 3, 6, 18 months out? Where is the business going to be at? What changes do I need to go ahead and make, pivot, and be done ahead of time so that I'm there to be able to help the business when they're ready to make changes? You know, the the technology, the rapid change of technology and risks and threats that are happening, you're already thinking ahead of where's my program at, where are my staff, their training, where they're at, what new skills do I need to recruit for, or do I need to train current staff for? You know, Gen AI. If you're going to be using Gen AI internally, you better make sure that your staff knows how to go ahead and do JSON scripting and Python scripting and stuff. If you're going to be going ahead and doing prompt engineering, you know, you better make sure that you got people that are very comfortable with, doing, we stood up a scrum to where we're actually, where we're doing these meetings and we're doing these sprints and everything like that. They're comfortable in that type of, of an agile atmosphere, vice just sitting at the desk and just doing Jira tickets all day. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no. There's, so sometimes, when you're looking at that and you're making these plans, another big thing is you got to be comfortable with the fact that you don't need to own it. Share it with your staff. They've got things that they're working on daily that they're focused on, but also give them that enterprise view so they know where we're going. So they've bought into that roadmap. They know where we're going and they know strategy wise why we're doing these things. And you want that because they're out and about in the business and they need to be able to communicate that. I want them
Hmm.
visible. I want them chatting with the other, employees. I want the employees to understand why we're doing things, what value, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going ahead and making you change passwords just because I'm being a pain in the butt. I'm making you change passwords because you were one of 35 people that used your corporate password on your DoorDash account and your DoorDash got yanked. And I'm pretty sure that if did it there, it's probably going to be the same over here, and we need to make a change. You
Yeah.
so it's stuff like that. I mean, there's and understand, and I tell people this: you're not going to have all of this coming out of the gate. You're
Yeah.
starting out as a system administrator. You're starting out as a security analyst. You're going to grow into these things,
Hmm.
over time. The thing I tell them is have the patience to understand these are things that you will develop over time. As you're in teams, look at the other people around you. Look at the people that are excelling, that are doing well, and look at how they are doing well, and don't be afraid to ask them to teach you or to ask them to be a mentor. Don't be afraid to go ahead and make changes yourself. You're going to see things that hey, I'm not. Have that quiet time of self-reflection when you're sitting over a cold drink or when you're just sitting at home, out in the backyard and it's nice and quiet and you just got time to think and just realize, I kind of screwed that up. I probably could have gone ahead and done this differently. Maybe I should have asked for help a lot earlier next time. you know so stuff like that. I mean, it starts in the early part of your career. There's certain things that you've got to do right away. You got to be the work on time, and you got to do
Hmm.
your deliverables on time, and you got to be able to work within your team. um, and then there's things that you got to start looking at. I need to start leaning forward and leaning ahead and seeing where we're going. I need to start volunteering to lead a project or to lead a team so that I can start getting experience of what it's like to manage, what it's like to be, in charge of people and stuff, you know. And then when you start doing that, all of a sudden there's other skills that are going to be required, for that, and you start picking these up, and it's just over time you just add to them. Some of them are soft skills, and some of them are technical skills. Many of the soft skills you will learn from your mentors, and you
Yeah.
will learn from fellow employees and fellow security engineers or security architects or CISOs. You will learn from them, and that's okay. And it's like and even today, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I've written books on it. I mentor on it, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still. It's not uncommon for me to sit and take notes, and when a friend of mine's up talking and everything like that, because I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that's something I'd want to go research and go check out. There's and I can tell you with Chat GPT and all these different tools and everything, there's no excuses for not doing research and not looking things up and not learning something new.
Yeah. Yeah. self-development is so important that you're always working on that. And it's never too, like, I think with a lot of these things and a lot of the attributes you talked about, you can start on them as early as, there's some that might come naturally a bit later in your career and stuff that you can't necessarily rush, but most of those things you can work on and you can consciously, make, every mistake is an opportunity to learn. The people that don't learn from the mistakes and can keep making them, the ones that are going to have the bigger issues with
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
But every time you fail on something, sitting down and taking the time to look at, right, what could I have done differently? And I feel like the really good people take it on their own shoulders almost. When something doesn't work out, I don't look to say, right, it was this person's fault, it was that person's fault. They look and say, what could I have done differently? Well, this person might not have done their thing, but did I speak to them about it? Could I have actually had a contribution to them that may have made them do it differently? What could I do? Because you can't change what other people do, but you can change what you do. And I think there's a great opportunity to do that. And there's an awful lot of great advice on there for anybody that's on their route to CISO, right? Wherever they are on there. You said, I think you were a CISO and a deputy CIO when you started to think about the business and doing your MBA and understanding that you needed to build your skill set up in that area. Some of that strategic stuff doesn't come until you're in a place where you can make use of the skills you're building. So I love that. I'm going to just ask a couple of other questions because a lot of our audience are people that are out there that are either in a position and looking to move on and get their next opportunity, or some of them, currently are out of work and looking to see, right, how can I get into the next place, or trying to break into even the industry. So we get a lot of applications at the moment. When you put an advert out, the applications have gone up considerably over the last couple of years. What are the things you look for? And I know you mentioned passion, and we talked about that, but let's say on a resume, you get a resume in front of you. How can people demonstrate that passion on the resume? And what are the things you're looking for on something like that?
Well, honestly, some of the things I look for, um, I've got a job description as a systems analyst, let's say like a security analyst,
Yeah.
and I list the basic things for it. And what I'm looking is when I look at your resume, I'm like, is your resume written for that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I get a resume that's a CISO resume, I'm like, there's a total mismatch.
Yeah.
You can't even follow basic instructions of this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these basic things, or like I specifically spell out that you have to have, not that it'd be nice that you have it, but no, it's required that you have experience with, like, say, Palo Alto firewalls, or experience, being able to script in Python, and you have to have it, and then you send me a resume and it doesn't have any of that. Well, why am I looking at this? You're not even meeting the basic requirements that I have to have. And so that right away will get rid of some of the resumes right away. And because
Yeah.
you're not even following the basic stuff of what I'm looking for, and then and so right away I go ahead and I get rid of those. And then the next thing I'm looking at is the the passion piece. The typically you will see that if it's just straight, I had these jobs, I've got this education, and done. Or, I've had these, got these jobs, and in those jobs, there's also volunteer work, for nonprofits. And,
Mm-hmm.
and in that volunteer work for the nonprofit, it spells out, you were a server administrator managing, Microsoft Exchange for, da da da, or you were, and, so that kind of stuff, I go ahead and I look for, even if it's volunteer, you weren't getting paid, I don't care. My thing is it's experience, and that you're actually taking the time to go ahead and learn and do these things and providing a service to somebody, as I go ahead and I look for that. If you are doing volunteer work and you're at B-sides, and
Yes.
B-sides, and you're helping run B-sides, that's a big thing for me. And I'm looking at, what are you doing at B-sides? Are you just handing out paperwork, or no, you're there helping run, stuff, or maybe you're behind the scenes helping run the networks, that B-Sides is running on, or Black Hat's running on, or DEF CON's running on. That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at. Are you helping run one of the villages? Have you volunteered to help run a village at DEF CON? And and what I look for there is, is it just something that you just did, or is it something that you've been doing over the last couple of years, and and each time you're doing different things, and you've got a whole explanation of all the different things that you're doing there that you're volunteering for. That is showing me stuff. Sometimes if it's a technical resume, like say I'm looking for a security engineer, and in the technical part of your resume where you're listing like the hardware and software and stuff like that, what I look for is I look for diversity. Is it just all you've done is just Windows stuff and that's it? Or hey, you've done Mac and you've done Linux and you've done Windows, and then you've done some really off the wall stuff. You've done some stuff with Raspberry Pis. You've done some stuff with some some iOS, which is kind of wow. You've been doing some stuff with them apps. That's kind of cool. So stuff like that. What I'm looking for is a breadth of because you see that in cybersecurity. Cyber just isn't one thing. It's a domain of specific types of technologies to manage risk. And so what I'm looking for is someone that hasn't been very narrow, but someone that's more broad. And you're going to see that with the types of jobs that you've taken, the types of roles that you've taken, the types of volunteer work that you've done, the types of projects that you've done. I've had someone where they listed the jobs that they did, where they basically listed, here's the jobs that I've done, here's the education that I've done, here's the technology stuff that I know, here's the projects that I've completed, and the current ones that I'm working on. And those projects were just cool stuff that they were building. I mean, and that's where you show. I mean, one of the guys was like, he basically built out his house, his whole freaking house. He had built out where he had sensors and things were like remote controlled, and he was collecting data on everything from the movements of his cats, and the water and food feeders, to the chickens that he's got out in the backyard that his wife has, and the feeder that he had there that was controlled, and he was controlling the heat lamps for him at nighttime so that they would stay. I mean, it was really cool, and stuff like that. That's showing someone that's not really within the box. They are pretty broad range. They're doing stuff, and you're going to see stuff like that in cyber, where there's a lot of network engineering stuff that they're doing just in house projects, just in volunteer projects that they're doing, and I recommend that. I mean, if you're doing a lot of that kind of stuff on the side, you're unemployed, but you're doing these kind of projects, listed underneath a projects header on your resume. Show some technical expertise that you're doing, that you're just not taking a class, you're actually building and breaking and doing stuff, and so that to me shows me a passion, shows me someone's got a passion. I definitely want to chat with you and see what you're doing, and so I've seen stuff like that. I mean, hey, I'm working at a village at DEF CON dealing with hacking cars, and at home I'm playing with these things, and it's stuff like that.
I think that's a great opportunity. And I thank you, first of all, for saying about the whole non-generic resume thing, because there's nothing like more of a struggle for us as recruiters as well, when we're having those conversations and people are like, no, this is my resume. And you're like, but this is the job description. I've spoken to you. You've told me you've got these skills that fit, but your resume hasn't got that. And then you send me a resume that hasn't got them on. This doesn't make any sense. So thank you for saying that. I'm a big proponent of the volunteer thing. I actually think our industry is built, our community anyway, is built on great volunteers. Having been involved with B-Sides, and a month after I started this business in 2012, I turned up at a cloud security meetup that ended up then becoming the Cloud Security Alliance's SoCal chapter, and I was a founding board member because I put my hand up and was like, can I help with anything? And made some lifelong friends, first of all, from that, but also some great networking and some clients off the back of it as well, right? So like it's great. It's something you can enjoy doing, and it's great for your career as well. So I agree. I've got one final question, because I think we could sit here talking for forever quite easily. Just one final, if you could go back to your early career self, what's the one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Keep your programming skills up.
Like that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think about it. The more senior you get and everything, you don't think about it, as much, because you get so swamped with other stuff. But I'm one of those people that's both technical and also strategic. I can, depending on what the business needs, depending on what I'm with what teams I'm working with. I mean, I've managed teams of 5 people to 300 people. And it's like, and I've, like I said, I've gotten my hands dirty and built from scratch on multiple occasions, and I love doing that. And then I've sit at the strategy level where I'm on the board as a director on the board, talking to the CEO and telling the CEO, no, you need to be, I don't think that is a good idea. Do you have some other options? I mean, so it's like, from a strategy perspective, so I mean, it's, and one thing I've learned is, in a heavy technical, industry, just keeping your programming skills up, it's a whole mind thing, where I find there's times where I want to build, there's times where, I'm doing stuff and I got to go back and look up because I've gotten rusty with Python and I've forgotten how to build something. Of course, now both of my sons can, so they give me crap all the time.
You can call them in.
And they'll help me. I mean, my youngest son's doing his master's in data science right now. And so
wow.
And he programs in like 9 different languages. So there's times where, he'll make fun of me, and but he'll help me out real quick because I've forgotten, how to do something, or he'll just tell me where I can go find it, and then I'll go figure it out. He won't do it for me, which is a good thing because I like trying to figure it out. But but for me though, it's just not letting skills a trophy. Even the more senior you get, and you may think that it's all going to be around strategy and doing business stuff. No, you still should keep your technical skills up. You should not let those, go away, because it's like, you never know what you're going to need or what you're going to need to work with, or especially if you're dealing with an incident, and you got to have those. I mean, because again, it's one of those, this is just one of those jobs where you can be dealing with business and strategy one day, and then the next day it's it's all technical, and you're dealing with engineers, or you're dealing with and you're talking with dev and trying to see what they're doing and trying to make recommendations, and you can't make recommendations if you don't understand the technology.
Yeah. Or having to speak to your sons or daughters that are studying data science and are going to give you grief.
Oh yeah. That's
Well, look, Gary, thank you so much for spending all this time with us. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'm sure the audience will do it as well. Thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting to you and getting to know a bit more about your background, because for somebody I've met a number of times and spoken to, this is a great opportunity for me to find out more. And I'm sure everybody else feels the same way as well. So thank you very much.
Well, I said, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to the Route to CISO podcast. If there's something you really want me to ask on the next episode, or if you're a CISO who wants to inspire the next generation, please reach out. I'll leave a URL to my LinkedIn profile, and make sure you connect and message me there. We're always looking for feedback, so please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.